What's up everyone, I am Mike Versbril, and today I'm going to help out my fellow New Jersey photographers and tell you guys the best places to photograph the Milky Way in New Jersey. Also, if you don't want to hear me ramble through this whole information video, feel free to jump over to milkywaymike.com where I posted a blog about this particular topic. So without further ado, let's jump on into it. Alright, so here we are looking at a Bordeaux Scale Map of New Jersey, and basically a Bordeaux Scale measures the astronomical observability of celestial objects in the night sky. You're probably thinking, what the hell are you even talking about? Basically, the different colors on this map represent how dark an area is relative to the amount of light pollution that's given off by large towns and cities. Our goal to photograph the Milky Way is to find an area that's in a Bordeaux class 4, 3, 2, or 1. This is our best odds of getting a decent shot of the Milky Way Core. As you can see from this Bordeaux class map of New Jersey, we are extremely limited where we could go photograph the Milky Way. Most of New Jersey is a Bordeaux class 5 or higher. However, when photographing the Milky Way rising over the ocean, we're shooting towards a Bordeaux class 4 in some locations, which makes it possible to capture the Milky Way. So now that we have that out of the way, let's talk about the absolute best locations to photograph the night sky in New Jersey. First on the list is Island Beach State Park, which is one of my favorite places to capture the night sky in New Jersey. It also could be a pain in the butt as well because you're technically not allowed there at night unless you're actively fishing, or you have to get a special use permit which costs around $60. In the colder months, they rarely patrol the beaches at night, so to get into the park, just bring your fishing pole and some fishing tackle and show it to the guard at the entrance gate. I forgot to bring my tackle with me one time and he called me out, so make sure you have everything if you're planning on doing this. Now, the further you drive into Island Beach State Park, the further you're getting away from the dreaded light pollution that dominates our state. There are many places to park and photograph the Milky Way along the beach here. However, since I like to include a foreground feature with my Milky Way, I typically go to Judge's Shack. The parking lot for this shack is about 6 miles from the entrance gate, and then from that parking lot it's about a 5-minute walk along the beach to get to Judge's Shack. Now typically you want to get there earlier in the Milky Way season when the Milky Way center is rising lower to the horizon facing east and southeast. As the Milky Way drifts higher in the sky and more to the south, you'll start to pick up some heavy light pollution. So to find out which months, dates, and times work best, I recommend downloading PhotoPills or TPE on your phone. These phone apps may seem a bit tricky to understand at first, but once you learn them, it'll really help you map out your best viewing spots for your photography locations. Island Beach State Park is arguably one of the darkest places in New Jersey, so I highly recommend checking it out. Next up, we have East Point Lighthouse, a historic lighthouse located near the mouth of Maurice River in Heislerville, New Jersey. Built in 1849, the East Point Lighthouse has become a great foreground feature to be used in combination with the night sky. Its location makes it suitable for both star trail and Milky Way photography. Sometimes photographing lighthouses can be tricky, especially when they're very bright. However, East Point Light is pretty subtle and not that challenging to shoot at all. I also just want to say thank you to Pam for letting me use her photo. Please check out her website and also the address for East Point Lighthouse, which will be listed in the description below. Next on the list is Long Beach Island, which has become a popular destination to photograph the Milky Way in New Jersey. You don't have to pay any fees like you do for Island Beach State Park, and you don't have to travel all the way down to the bottom of New Jersey to escape some light pollution. Most night photographers venture out to Barnegat Light, which has a variety of compositions you could use for your foreground. Barnegat Light is fun to do star trail photography with, and if you walk past the lighthouse along the water, you'll eventually come to a large rock jetty, which is great for low-lying Milky Way Core shots. While driving towards Barnegat Lighthouse, there are plenty of side streets which have pathways leading towards the beach and the Milky Way. You want to do this during the early Milky Way season, typically March, April, or May, while the Milky Way is lower to the horizon and is still a ghost town in the beach areas, so finding a parking spot is easy to do. I like to look for side streets without harsh orange lights that typically cast shadows and ugly color on my foreground. During astronomical twilight, I found a path that worked perfectly in Surf City on Long Beach Island, so definitely check out other areas of LBI and not just Barnegat Light. Now I'm going to lump the next 3 towns together. We have Strathmere, Sea Isle City, and Avalon, New Jersey, and as you can see from the map, they're all pretty close to each other. Strathmere has some beautiful pathways leading towards the beach, but it was a little challenging pulling detail out of the Milky Way. Probably because 16 miles to the north is Atlantic City lights, which diminish the night sky visibility. Sea Isle is around 20 to 22 miles south of Atlantic City, and the sky might be slightly darker there, which will be better for the Milky Way shots. And even further away from Atlantic City is Avalon Beach, which is also one of my favorite places to go for some decent Milky Way shots. Avalon is a further drive south than LBI, however I think it produces slightly better results. Typically you can find lifeguard stands or boats on the beach and use them for your composition, which will help change things up a bit. Up next we have Cape May, New Jersey, and Cape May is one of those classic beach towns that is resistant to change, and I love that. You can see and feel the nostalgia as you explore this beautiful area. And for Milky Way photography, it is the furthest south we could go to get away from Philly and New York, but we still run into a little problem. While the Milky Way is relatively good to photograph in Cape May, a south-facing Milky Way starts to drift over light pollution from Maryland. It's not the end of the world, but it's something to consider when making the long trip all the way down there. There are plenty of trails and spots to explore in Cape May, and the right composition can hide some of that light pollution like this photo here. Now I know a lot of you guys are probably thinking by now these are all along the Jersey Shore coastline, but are there any spots that are inland? And the short answer is yes, but it's not that great, which brings me to Wharton State Forest. It is one of the largest forests in New Jersey and has some decent dark skies, but you're surrounded by light pollution. One of the coolest and slightly creepy locations to photograph is Batsto Village. This old historic community site has been dated back to the mid-1700s. The historic structures make for some interesting foreground features, however, you're technically trespassing after sunset, so proceed at your own risk. You could also do some star trail photography here, like this image of Batsto Mansion. Now it is possible to capture the Milky Way galaxy in Batsto Village or in Wharton Forest, but it's quite faint and it requires a lot of heavy editing to pull out any detail in the core. So that wraps up the best spots to photograph the Milky Way in New Jersey, and as you can see, we don't have much variety to choose from. So if you know any great spots and you want to share them, please leave them in the comments below, and I'll also leave the addresses of the locations in the description as well. So check those out and get out and shoot. Take care guys, thanks for watching.